So Humphrey Van Weyden boarded the Martinez, not knowing what he was in store for. He heard a lot of people screaming, and before he knew it, he was being saved by Wolf Larsen. Mr. Van Weyden wanted to finish his journey to San Francisco, but he was forced to join the crew. He became a cabin boy with the nickname Hump. As a cabin boy, Hump had to work with Cookie, and Cookie would torture him. "Look at him run, look at him run," I could hear him crying. "Come on back, you poor little mama's darling." Then Hump had been robbed. "I had been robbed," I amended. "How did it happen?" he asked. Then I told him the whole circumstance, how my clothes had been left to dry in the galley, and how later I was nearly beaten by the cook when I mentioned the matter. He smiled at my recital. "Pickings," he concluded. "Cookie's picking." Hump and Wolf started discussing their philosophies on life. "I believe that life is a mess. It is like yeast, a ferment, a thing that moves and may move for a minute, an hour, a year, or 100 years, but that in the end will cease to move. The big eat the little, that they may continue to move. The strong eat the weak, that they may retain their strength. The lucky eat the most and move the longest. That is all. What do you make of those things?" Hump had never worked this hard in his life. He always depended on his dad. Rest. I had never before knew the meaning of the word. I had been resting all my life, and I did not know it. But now could I sit still for 1/2 hour and do nothing, not even think. It would be the most pleasurable thing in the world. But it is a revelation, on the other hand. I shall be able to appreciate the lives of the working people hereafter. I did not dream that work was so terrible a thing. Wolf and Hump were starting to get closer, and Cookie was getting jealous of their relationship, so he started threatening Hump. For 2 hours, they sat there, face to face, wet, 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 till the news of it spread abroad, and half the ship's company was crowding the galley doors to see the sight. But nothing happened. At the end of 2 hours, Thomas Mugridge put away his knife and stone and held out his hand. "What's the good of making a 'oly show of ourselves for them mugs?" he demanded. "They don't love us, and bloody will glad they be a seeing us cutting our throats. 3 days of rest, 3 blessed days of rest, are what I had with Wolf Larsen, eating at the cabin table and doing nothing but discuss life, literature, and the universe." The while Thomas Mugridge fumed and raged and did my work as well as his own. My intimacy with Wolf Larsen increases, if by intimacy may be denoted those relations which exist between master and man, or better yet, between king and jester. I am to him no more than a toy, and he values me no more than a child values a toy. His body, thanks to his Scandinavian stock, was fair as the fairest woman's. But Wolf Larsen was the man type, the masculine, and almost a god in his perfectionness. I have forgotten to say that the bronze ended with his face. I remember his putting up his hand to feel of the wound on his head, and my watching the biceps move like a living thing under his white sheath. It was the biceps that had nearly crushed out my life once, that I had seen strike so many killing blows. I could not take my eyes from him. I stood motionless, a roll of antiseptic cotton in my hand, unwinding and spilling itself down on the floor. He noticed me, and I became conscious that I was staring at him. "God made you well," I said. "And immortality?" Maud asked loudly in the ear. 3 times the hand essayed to write, but fumbled hopelessly. The pencil fell. In vain we tried to replace it. He wrote in large letters, and so slowly that the minutes ticked off to each letter. B-O-S-H. It was Wolf Larsen's last word, Bosh. The trunk of the body moved slightly. Then there was no movement. Maud released the hand. The fingers spread slightly, falling apart of their own weight, and the pencil rode away. Day came for their departure. I did it. With my own hands, I did it. I wanted to cry aloud. To think, Humphrey, you did it all with your own hands. But there were 2 other hands, 2 small hands, and don't say that was a phrase also of your father. She laughed and shook her head, and held her hands up for inspection. "I can never get them clean again," she wailed, "nor soften the weather beat. Dirt and weather beat shall be your guerdon of honor."
It was Wolf Larsen's last word, Bosh, skeptical and invincible to the end. This quote embodies what we as a group took away from Seawolf. It was that even when Wolf's on his deathbed, he remained stuck in his ways and mentally strong, although his health was deteriorating. While that's admirable in a way, it only helped hurry his downfall, and Hump, who adapted to survive, succeeded.